Well, it may well be Bank Holiday Monday, but there's no rest for Dom. He's working at one of our busiest ports. Dom digs in 45 minutes. Now all you need is love, yes, but be careful.
The UK is fighting a tidal wave of romance fraud.
In the last year alone, almost 10,000 cases have been reported to the police.
It's a hugely harmful crime which can be devastating emotionally and financially, with the economic cost to the UK last year close to £100 million.
It doesn't matter if you're old or young, a man or a woman. It could happen to anyone.
The man you've been speaking to is not real.
I loved him so much.
And we are back to expose the lies and manipulation behind these heartless scammers.
We'll be uncovering the tactics of the criminals behind the scams.
It's set up to trap someone.
And following the teams that won't rest until the scammers are brought to justice.
And as ever, we'll have everything you need to know to make sure you and your money stay safe.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Coming up, how this woman lost over £49,000 to a man she'd never met.
And he just took it all from me. Just stripped everything away from me.
The new tactics scammers are using to get at your cash.
Literally went like glue dollars in my eyes. But then they said, you have to transfer 15% of whatever's in your account through Bitcoin.
And how a scammer invokes divine powers to access this woman's wallet.
He used scripture. Lean not on your own understanding. Trust in God with all your heart and mind.
All right, Kim, we've been contacted by a lady called Michelle. She's been speaking to a man online called Michael. She now has doubts and she wants to know if it's a scam. Here's a bit more.
My marriage had broken down. Friends of mine suggested going on a dating website. So that's how I got talking to Michael. He'd been bidding for a big contract over in the States. He'd got to Seattle, but his card got declined. So he said, could I send him some money? Me and my ex-husband sold our house and we had some money. Basically took all of it.
Well, she's divorced, she's vulnerable, she's lonely. We know that she is the perfect candidate for a scammer, but I want to get to the bottom of what's going on.
I'll go and have a chat with her and see what else I can find out.
While Ashley gets to grips with the texts, photos and emails that Michael sent to Michelle, I'm on my way to meet her. A senior nursing consultant and mum of 3, Michelle had been married for 21 years before her marriage broke down.
Hello, Michelle.
Hello, Kim.
Thanks for chatting with me today.
Shortly after getting divorced and celebrating her 50th birthday, Michelle started to crave the company of a partner.
Just felt, you know, a bit lonely. And I've never been on my own before, so my youngest son paid for a photo shoot of us for my 50th. And some friends said, oh, perhaps put a couple on some dating websites and see what happens.
Michael Walter told Michelle he was 51 years old from Bristol with 2 young daughters. He worked as a sourcing specialist in the engineering trade.
He was a good-looking gentleman, and I thought, oh, my God, I'm punching above my weight. He was local, he was a businessman, also divorced.
So he'd been making you feel great and confident, I'm assuming.
Yeah. You know, I'm not a confident person anyway.
Yeah.
I sort of belittle myself all the time. It's just...
Why is that?
I don't know, I just never been confident of anything or of myself, never have.
You mentioned that you lived nearby.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a reason that you hadn't decided to meet up yet, or...?
He told me he was going to Edinburgh for a business trip.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back and then he had his daughters that weekend and he wanted to tell them about me. The weekend of that, he told me that he had been vying for this big contract and he'd won this contract and that he would have to be in San Francisco. He'd have to fly out on a Sunday night.
Okay.
We FaceTimed each other and he looked exactly like he did on the picture. He had his 2 daughters with him and they said hello and everything. He gets to the airport over in America. He bought a suit for £1,800 and then the card was declined. So then he messaged me then to say, oh, I don't know how I'm going to pay for my hotel.
Michael asked Michelle if he could borrow £1,800. He said he would pay her back straight away.
And then he sent me a picture of his bank account, which was very wealthy. And it was an English bank account. And I thought, well, I've got no worries.
Yeah.
He's got plenty of his own money. It's just a little blip.
But it didn't stop there.
Nope. Because he'd have to come back to England to actually go into the bank himself.
Okay.
And obviously, if he did that, he would lose his contract. And he worked so hard for it. So could I send some more money?
Yeah, okay. And how much was that for?
Possibly 2,000 or 3,000 at that time.
Okay.
Michael went on to ask her to pay another £3,500 for machinery and £5,000 to sort out problems with the contract, all with promises that she'd get her cash back when he flew home the following Friday. So Michelle paid. But once the day of his return finally arrived, Michael wasn't on the flight.
And then I have a message from him in a hospital bed with a picture saying that he had a stroke.
We've been contacted by more people for this series than any before, and we know the numbers of people falling victim to romance fraud are rising year on year. And we've seen an increasing number of cases that suggest the scammers are based right here in the UK. So I'm meeting up with John Shillen from the National Crime Agency to find out what UK authorities are doing to try and fight back.
To see online romance fraud having a foothold in the UK, that must alarm you.
Yeah, very definitely, and it's something that we're working very closely across our UK law enforcement partners as well to try and understand and get on top of. We work very, very closely with City of London Police, that has the National Lead Force remit around fraud, and so we're looking at the moment to try and support them however we can with the kind of national level capabilities that we can employ around things like our intelligence capabilities, our overseas network, and how we can really bring that to bear to understand the threat.
Yeah.
We've also seen recently a trend starting to emerge of groups in Nigeria and Ghana actually enlisting the services of criminals in the UK to help lend credibility to some of these scams as well. So again, having an approach online from a foreign country can, raise alarm bells.
I think about the victims that I meet, and to think that this is happening to more people is an eye-opener.
I think one point to get across is this is an industry. Gone are the days where you had this conception that romance frauds must be, gullible, vulnerable victim. That doesn't really happen very much. It's gobsmacking the scale of this. Underreporting is a thing in all fraud types, but romance fraud in particular.
Why do you think that is?
All frauds are personal because someone's tricked you. In romance fraud, someone's not only tricked you, but they've tricked you in as intimate a way as they possibly could. And so we see victims really, really hurt by what's happened to them. But we also see people in real denial because they're invested in that. They've built this idea of this relationship that they're in. And in a lot of romance fraud cases, even when the police are knocking on the victim's door to engage with them, that victim is still defending the relationship.
For our viewers, for victims, what are the red flags when it comes to romance fraud?
We often see within this the kind of legend that's assumed by the criminal as they build this relationship will often be someone who works in quite a kind of noble-sounding industry. It'll be someone military or medical, working in far-flung jurisdictions. That gives an excuse for why they can't have video calls, the internet's not good enough. It's that kind of thing should start to raise suspicion. Also, anyone that's trying to move you away from the platform on which you've met them. So you might have met someone on a kind of normal social media or on a dating website, if you find someone quite quickly trying to take you away from that platform and potentially all the safeguards that that platform offers, that should be another red flag.
Michelle had been talking to Michael Walter for just 3 weeks after meeting him on a dating site. Michael had told her he'd run into difficulty with a work contract in Seattle, and Michelle had helped him out to the tune of £15,000. And just as he was about to fly to the UK, Michael had a stroke and asked Michelle to pick up his medical bills, which were soon running into tens of thousands of pounds.
I was getting messages off doctors because I was his next of kin. And they were messaging me saying that I need to pay, I got me thinking it was like £27,000 for these medical bills and for all his treatment. And it's just like, I'm sorry, but there's just no way on earth I can send that amount over. So then he's getting stressy with me. I need to get back to you to pay your money back, to pay people that I owe. And he was just saying, oh, you said you loved me, blah, blah, blah.
It was at this stage that Michael persuaded Michelle to take out a loan of £5,000.
How much, roughly, do you think you'd sent him at this point?
Well, he bled me dry for, I had £42,000 from the sale of the house. And I had about £1,000 left in the bank.
That's a lot of money. A lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's just taking everything from you.
Yeah.
With his medical bills rising and Michelle struggling to pay, Michael told her he'd gone against the advice of his doctors and discharged himself from hospital. Soon after, Michelle received a 3 a.m. phone call from someone who'd been caring for Michael.
I get a message off this doctor early hours of the morning saying basically that if I let him get on that plane, I've basically killed him and I've got to stop him from getting on the plane.
The person at the hospital had told Michelle the lack of medical care on flights could mean he wouldn't make it to the UK alive. Michelle persuaded Michael to go back to hospital, but again, that came at a cost.
Then he messaged back then to say he was back in the hospital and he was suicidal and stuff like that. So then he did ask for a bit more money, and my ex-husband lent me £2,000, and I sent that over to try and get something back out of it.
So your ex-husband lent you the £2,000.
Mm-hmm.
Did he know what the £2,000 was for?
He come round sort of middle of December to bring the kids' presents round, and I just literally broke down. Basically, I told him the story, and he said, right, I'll give you this money to help you out, but do not send it over. And of course,
you did.
Me being me, I did.
In total, Michelle had sent the man she knew as Michael over £49,000. Not long after, Michelle's bank card was declined and her account frozen.
So then on the Monday when I finished work, I popped into the bank and said, look, what's going on? And that's when it all fell into place then. And then I had a meeting with the police the day after.
How did you feel at that point?
Stupid, embarrassed, ashamed.
Yeah.
And any confidence that he built up in me just went boomf. Obviously, my marriage had broke down, sold the house, had to find somewhere to live, gone from being the house of four to me being on my own. My mum was also diagnosed with lung cancer. And he just took it all from me. Sorry.
No, don't you be sorry. Here you go.
He just stripped everything away from me.
Did you tell him that your mum was ill?
Yeah.
What a piece of work.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. My mum, God bless her soul, she never got to know the degree of how silly I'd been. Because she always said, don't send him any money.
Yeah. So, what do you want us to do for you?
It's just to see who he is, really. I mean, I've resigned myself to the fact I'm not going to get the money back, and just basically to have some closure.
Yeah, I think you need that.
Yeah, and I just want to do something to put it out there that he's not who he says he is.
Expose him.
Yeah. Expose him for the parasite that he really is.
Yeah. I think clearly Michelle was a very vulnerable lady at the time that she met her scammer, and I still think that there are some vulnerabilities there today. What Michelle needs is some closure so that she can rebuild her life and start again.
53-year-old Eva had moved to London from overseas and was working as a maths tutor whilst writing a book. She had been single for 2 years and decided it was time to find some companionship.
It's nice to be able to be intimate, hug, have sex, probably you're gonna cut it out.
In January 2021, she joined an online dating site, and it wasn't long before she was approached by 36-year-old Jesse from London.
He was my type, chiseled face, skinny, tall, dark hair.
Jesse told Eva he had a successful career working as a director of an international logistics company, but the sparks weren't exactly flying.
The conversation was extremely boring. He kept asking me, "Have you eaten today?" I said, "Well, not yet, I just got up." "Make sure you go to bed on time." I mean, I even hate it when my mother asks me these questions. And I just said to him, "You sound like my grandpa."
Their match was lacking the chemistry Eva was looking for, so she decided to call it a day and ended things. Jesse's reaction came as a surprise.
He just went to the point. He sent a screenshot of a trading app, trading currencies. And it showed what he had traded today, and what it showed was that he made £12,000 profit. It literally went like dollars in my eyes. And I asked him, "How do you do this? Can you teach me?"
Interested, Eva checked out the app.
Because it was an app, it gave it some kind of credibility, separate from this guy. So I put about £7,000 into it through Bitcoin.
£7,000 was a huge investment, but Eva was delighted when, soon after putting the money in, she could see on the app she was making good returns.
Every time we would make a trade, I'd win. I felt on top of the world. I would make so much money, I could give all that money to all my friends. None of them would have any problems.
But things were about to change. It wasn't the trading app that caused Eva the most concern, it was Jesse.
The biggest red flag came very soon. The guy started pressuring me to put more money into the account. And I said, why does it matter to him whether I put more amount of money in there or not?
Jesse convinced Eva to put another £3,000 into the account to take her investment up to £10,000. And with the app showing healthy profits, she went even further.
I got even more greedy and I put more money in, about $50,000. When I did that, I got phone calls from the bank saying, "Are you sure nobody's pressuring you?" And I said yes to all of those because even though the guy was pressuring me, he wasn't pressuring me to give him money. So I kind of justified it in my own mind.
Within weeks of meeting Jesse, Eva had invested roughly £35,000 through the app he had recommended. But 2 months into their venture, things started to unravel for Eva as she tried to cash in her $20,000 return.
At some point I tried to take some money out and I couldn't. I contacted the people on the app and they said, "Oh, that's because I have to verify my account." I don't know why they didn't ask me this before. But then they said, "And you have to transfer 15% of whatever's in your account into this random Bitcoin address." So I said to them straight, "This seems like it's a scam." At which point, whoever I was talking to became abusive, which made it very clear this was a scam.
Realising Jessie had directed her to a fake investment app, Eva hired a private investigator who was able to trace her money to a bank account in Hong Kong. But they were unable to recover her money.
Well, having lost this money means it's much harder for me to get to a point where I feel like I can repay my mortgage.
Eva reported everything to the police. It soon emerged the man in the pictures she'd assumed was Jessie was actually completely innocent, with no connection to the scam. They were in fact images of a male model who we have attempted to contact, so he's aware of his innocent role in scams like this. And it seems he wasn't the only victim of this con man.
I went back and it's exactly the same account, our conversation is still there. He changed the profile picture, a different model, and changed the name from Jesse to John. It's so obviously a scam, right?
Someone asking themselves the same question is Michelle. She sent £49,000 to Michael Walter and has passed me all the photos, documents and emails he sent her so I can try and get to the bottom of who he really is.
So Michael sent a photo of himself and his two daughters, so he says to Michelle, I'm going to reverse image search that photo to see what we find. But it's a lovely photo, very idyllic. Oh, wow. There are many photos of this bloke.
And alongside these photos, the same name crops up again and again.
Okay, Juan Sola y Familia. Click on that link.
It leads me to what I think is that person's social media page.
You've got him with kids, a lot of photos with him and those kids. And you've also got him with a very glamorous looking lady. Do you know what? This man is clearly a public figure of some sort, but I'm not feeling good about this.
In fact, more investigation tells me the man in the photos is the Argentinian actor Juan Soler. And hopefully this is a big step into bringing Michelle the closure she needs.
Whilst Ashley unearths Michael's true identity, I want to find out more about how Michelle was manipulated for so long. I'm meeting with Dr. Elizabeth Carter, a linguistics expert, to learn about the language tricks Michael played in order to access Michelle's money.
So Michael is in a situation fairly early on in the relationship, which is quite unusual. Usually there's quite a lot of getting to know you before a situation happens, but he uses this to his advantage. He says it's unusual. I wish this wasn't happening at the beginning of our relationship, which lends him a little bit of credibility because he's all flustered and he's stuck in a situation.
Are there other examples of him doing that?
He even starts saying, he's homeless. And he contrasts that with showing a screenshot of how much money he has. He has lots and lots of money. So this adds to his credibility while also having no money at all. The position that Michelle is in, she is compelled to try and protect him, protect his professionalism, try and put a roof over his head.
Yeah.
And it's really immediate. These kind of things need to be dealt with urgently. So what Michael's done is get her to send money quickly, without going through the cognitive processes, thinking about it, what am I doing? He's asking to pay back someone who was really kind to him and lent him money. Also uses the language of we and us, and this is something that we must do to try and build this idea that this is a joint project. This isn't I need money from you, it's we need money to get us out of this situation. So he's not asking for money really, he's asking for help for their relationship to carry on.
I mean, these people must be so clever. They just must be. Really intelligent people. Such a shame they're using it in such a vile way.
They are very in tune with vulnerabilities of the people they're talking to. Everybody has a vulnerability, and it is their job as serious organised criminals to find that vulnerability. And the number one thing to do is to keep your friends and family and support network close to you. Listen to them.
There are no dirty tricks scammers won't play when trying to con their victims. They'll pretend to be in the military, working as doctors, in humanitarian roles, and frequently they'll hide behind a strong religious belief. Christine Linus thought she could trust the man she was talking to after meeting him on a Christian dating website. But the truth was a lot more complicated. Nurse Christine from Middlesbrough lost husband David to cancer in 2014.
I think because of my love for Dave, I just didn't feel like I wanted to replace him.
Christine was a widow for 7 years, during which time she cared for both of her parents before they also died. In her grief, she turned to faith and became a born-again Christian, but she still found herself wanting companionship.
It got to the point where I actually thought, I don't want to do this anymore. I actually think I would like to be with someone again.
Christine joined a Christian-friendly dating site, and in January 2021, Frank Lee Muller got in touch. He told Christine he was a 57-year-old drill consultant for an oil rig and that he was based in New York.
When I read his profile, he said he was brought up in Johannesburg. He actually rang me 3 days after we got in touch because he said he wanted to hear my voice.
Frank told Christine that he was also a born-again Christian.
We had things in common as in church, so we talked a lot about God. He would quote scripture to me. He would actually put a prayer onto WhatsApp.
Soon after, Frank shared some exciting news with Christine.
Frank informed me that he would be going on a job, which was sending him to an oil rig in Moscow. He was really excited. And then he said to me, once he'd finished the job, he was calling in to visit me on his way back to the States. I was ecstatic.
But after Frank successfully reached Moscow, Christine received a significant update.
I got a very long message, text message, to say that the drill that he'd taken on board the oil rig in Moscow had broken and he needed a particular part from China, so I need some money. He used scripture and said, lean not on your own understanding. Trust in God with all your heart and mind. For Christians, it's a very strong piece of scripture.
Frank told Christine that he no longer had access to his own bank account because he'd lost his phone, which contained all of his bank details. He asked Christine for $5,000, roughly £3,500, and implied a higher power was at play.
This is me, you and God. I will pay you back in 3 days' time. I will have this job finished in 3 days' time. I will be with you in 3 days' time. Got my phone out and I proceeded to transfer money to an account.
Christine transferred £5,000 of the inheritance she had received from her dad when he died. However, Barclays Bank stopped the payment and alerted Christine to the fact that the transaction looked to be fraudulent. But Frank convinced her this was just the bank being overcautious and instead encouraged her to transfer the cash via Bitcoin. Once he'd received the money, Frank was very grateful and showered Christine with compliments.
He would use words like, what an awesome person you are. I was sucked in like a big sponge.
The part was delivered to the rig and Frank's drill had been fixed. His work was able to resume and it was only a matter of days before Frank would be flying to the UK to meet Christine.
I got another text message. He needed $10,000 because part of the machinery that I'd paid for was damaged again. I replied to him saying, I don't have that kind of money. I've only got £4,000 left. And he said, send that.
Christine told the bank that the transfer of her final £4,000 inheritance money from her father was legitimate and they allowed it to process.
I made the bank transfer and I said, I think I'm doing it right. And a message came through, just do it.
Having transferred the money, her generosity was soon rewarded by Frank.
There was a time coming up that would have been my dad's birthday, and he said, today you're not going to be sad, you're going to be happy. And when I got home from work, there was a box on my doorstep. There were flowers, there was a teddy bear and a card, and it was from Frank.
But that was as good as it got from Frank. With the last of her father's inheritance sent, he soon messaged Christine to say he'd run into yet more trouble.
I got a message to say the loan he'd asked for had been declined and he needed the $10,000. Was there any way I could help him? He was saying to me that unless he could get this money, he was going to kill himself.
By now, Christine was having grave doubts about Frank. Appalled at his selfishness, she turned to a friend for advice.
I rang a friend of mine, spoke to her about my concerns. Her husband had seen For Love or Money and actually suggested that I should watch it. Watched every series and cried at every series because I thought, that's me now, that's me.
Christine cut contact with Frank immediately. In total, she'd given Frank £7,000, which was all of her inheritance from her parents. As we've seen before, the photos of Frank were stolen from an innocent party, in this case, a man based in Spain. We have attempted to contact him in order to make him aware his photographs are being used in this way.
Because I was so ashamed of what I'd done, I was trying to think of ways of replacing that money myself without my family knowing, and that was the hardest thing. Actually confess to my children and my brother what I'd done with my dad's money.
But with the love and support of her family and her faith, Christine's been able to put her ordeal behind her.
Mrs. Always Right.
Oh, just remember that.
And she's even met a new partner, Rob, and was married in October of 2021.
When I did meet Rob, he bought me a Costa. And he got in my car and he just looked at me and he went, oh, hello. And I was like, oh, this is great. He helped me when I needed help. And the most important thing was that he was real.
Senior nursing consultant Michelle was looking for love when her 21-year marriage ended. After joining a dating app, she met Michael, who claimed to work in the engineering trade, but who wound up in America with his bank accounts frozen. Desperate to help the new man in her life, Michelle sent over £49,000. But Michael isn't who he says he is.
From the business card to the app to these photos, clearly a scammer is at work.
It's time for Michelle to learn the truth.
Hi.
Have you heard from Michael at all since I last spoke with you?
I had a message off him on Thursday. Out of the blue. It just blew me away. It just stirred it all up again.
I bet, yeah. I bet it has.
Michelle is still clearly in a fragile place. Hopefully our findings, as difficult as they may be for her to hear, will give her the closure she needs. Starting with the language Michael used in his messages.
Tell me how these messages made you feel.
It was just making me feel that we both deserve some happiness.
Don't feel like you have to read all the messages, because I know that it might be a bit triggering. What I want to say here, though, Michelle, is he regularly uses the language of we and us. But the use of we and us, as opposed to I, is essentially causing you to feel like you are working for this joint relationship when you send him money.
Michael also used clever psychological tricks to gain Michelle's trust when sending him money.
One of these ways was a clever tactic where Michael framed everything as someone else's fault every time he needed money. He would say things like the bank needed money, or a shop needs to be paid for goods. The bank's protection systems have kicked in. It was always someone else that was responsible for him needing your money. Does that ring true to you?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Essentially what he's doing here, Michelle, is creating a narrative that someone else is at fault. That way you trust him, you buy into what his telling you buy into the story that he is creating that causes you to part with your cash.
I think they're very clever, aren't they? Very, very clever.
One of the most astounding approaches Michael used was a 3 a.m. phone call to Michelle from a hospital worker called Susan. Susan said that if Michael were to get on a flight back to the UK, he'd die from the stress. Sadly, this conversation with a third party is another tactic we've seen before.
Can you imagine a hospital worker blaming you and telling you it could be your fault?
No, because I work in the care environment myself.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. This person was using a language technique called othering. So Michael brings in a hospital worker. This legitimizes Michael's story. Susan guilt trips you. She uses this very emotionally intense language to make you feel even more pressured into parting with your cash.
I can't believe there's just so many techniques out there.
It's not just psychological tactics that make us suspect Michael. His backstory doesn't stack up either. We've looked into Michael's company.
We could not find any evidence that his company occupied that address. We got in touch with the landlord of the building, and they said there was no company called Sondit Works in the building. So we did the research just in case the address was wrong. We found no record of any company by that name on Companies House existing in the UK ever. We just couldn't find it. So I think you know where we're going.
Yeah.
In order to keep Michelle on the hook and prove he could afford to pay her back, Michael sent a screen grab of his bank account showing nearly £2 million in funds. It certainly got Michelle's attention.
And I thought it must be real because he bought his tickets because he said he was going to America for this business trip.
Yeah.
The flowers that he bought me, which I had delivered to my work, are on here. And he also said he went to IKEA to get some bedroom units for the daughters.
Here's the first point. Michael sent you this screenshot in 2019, but this version of the NatWest banking app hasn't been in use for more than 5 years.
Really?
Yeah, it's an old version. This indicates this image has been edited.
So how did he, with the flowers and...
We believe it's all been doctored.
Yeah.
And that he's given you information and used this account to try and corroborate what he said to you to manipulate you into parting with more cash.
With the background work explained, it's time to reveal to Michelle the true identity of the man in the photographs.
Michelle, these photos do not belong to Michael Walters. They belong to a man called Juan Sola. He's an actor, a former rugby player, and he's from Argentina.
Wow.
And this is his verified social media page. So one thing to point out here is this is a public figure with open social media settings. This is a dream for people who scam victims.
Oh, dear me.
Now, you may also recognize his 2 daughters.
But they were in the FaceTiming.
We've seen this before. We have seen where scammers rip videos from social media accounts, doctor that content to create fake videos, and you feel as if you're speaking to someone.
Yeah.
In fact, Juan Soler has absolutely no connection to the scam and is just another victim of the con artist behind it. And we believe we know the source of the video used to convince Michelle she was speaking to Michael.
This actor does a lot of Instagram lives. I'm going to show you one now.
Hoy en Argentina es un día muy especial, es el Día de las Madres. Feliz Día de las Madres a todas las mamás argentinas. Quiero hacerlo extensiva también a todas las mamás del mundo. A las mamás hay que festejarlas todos los días. Pero hoy en especial, tener mis pláticas con ellas por la mañana.
I think I'm quite strong, but...
Oh, Michelle. Oh. Michelle. It's horrible. It's hurting you, isn't it? I know.
I know some of this information is a real blow, but you can take real strength in the fact that now you're getting the closure that you deserve.
Yeah, indeed.
And if there is one thing that you can feel good about, it's this. You are helping other people in this situation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Somebody watching this now, your story, might just have alarm bells ringing in their head. And if it does, great. Hopefully not too late.
Yeah.
Another example of just how sophisticated the scam was is how the fraudster produced the hospital photo Michelle received when Michael told her he had had a stroke.
The hospital worker told you that if you didn't pay his medical bills, he would die. We've explained Juan is an actor.
Yeah.
We have a scene that we'd like to play for you.
Mauro.
Oh my God.
No, no fue un accidente. Intentaron quitarte la vida, Franco. ¿Querían matarme? ¿Quién? ¿De verdad no lo recuerdas?
I can't believe a picture's just off a television programme.
I am so sorry.
Well, it's all been answered.
Michelle, he did try and contact you the past week, was it?
Yeah, last Thursday.
He will not stop pursuing you as long as they believe that they can get money from you. So here's what you need to do. You need to block that number because this is 100% a scammer.
I'm going to block him and I'm going to delete every single photo of him.
Has that given you
Yes, it
the
has.
closure that you needed?
I feel I can move on now. I know he's not legit. Yeah.
Michelle, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for coming forward.
And thank you for finding out this.
I wish you all the best and thank you for allowing us to look into your case. Kim, I'm staggered by the range of evidence in this one, from the documents to the banking app to taking the movie to the photos. Scammers are becoming more sophisticated, aren't they?
They are becoming more sophisticated. They're thinking up new ways all the time, aren't they, to get to people. I hope she's able to move forward now and gets the closure that she needs.
Yeah.
I've got the answers. As for Michael, I think he's a parasite, a nasty piece of work, and I just think he just preys on vulnerable women. And I'm just glad I've done what I've done, and if it stops him doing it to someone else, then it's a job well done.
If you think you've been scammed in a similar way or been asked to send money to someone you're talking to online, then we'd like to hear from you. Email loveormoney@bbc.co.uk. Join us again.
Sometimes I just don't get affected by it, other times it just hits a nerve.
For more shocking tales of romance fraud.
The shame and embarrassment of lying to the police. But all I kept thinking was, I need you to leave so I can get the $30,000 over so they don't kill him.
Details of organisations offering information and support with fraud are available at the BBC Action Line website.